Alfred Adler believed all behavior to be purposeful and goal oriented, with the ultimate goal being to have a place of value in one's social context. He also believed in the unified, holistic personality of each individual. All parts work as a whole, not as independent actors. Per Adler, these parts pull us forward toward achieving a goal formed in childhood's early stages, where individuals collect observations about the world and decide what their place is in it, or should be. He called this goal fictional, in that it was an ideal to which the deficit of our perceived inferior current state creates the vortex of energy that drives us forward. He's considered by some to be the father of contemporary psychology, including cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectic behavioral therapy. Adler's approach followed a pattern of empathetic Socratic dialogue, where the coach and client explore the client's perceptions of what they viewed as important childhood events and the belief system the client formed from these events. Adler would then question and dispute these beliefs and conclusions, as presently manifested in a client's life in the form of inferiority-tinged negative self-talk. My preferred theoretical orientation would begin here with an Adlerian core and the four-phase Adlerian process of engagement, assessment, insight, and reorientation. However, I would supplement this framework with tools developed by the positive psychology movement, as well as techniques being developed from the research of neurobiologists and evolutionary behaviorists. Adler identified three basic driving needs or tasks: the need for friendship, the need to pass our genes on through love and marriage, and the need for an occupation that brings us value and esteem in our community. Others, like Maslow and Dweck, have broken these needs down into more basic needs: our physiological needs, food, water, shelter, and the ability to control these inputs, our need for safety, trust, and predictability. These are two together that we share with animals. As such, the biological perspective and evolutionary behaviorists have shown similarities between the neuroemotional circuits that make up the basic cognition equipment for both humans and animals. Studies like these have discovered that rat mothers who lick their rat pups fire in them emotional circuitry that creates memories that allow them to be more resilient in stressful situations as adults. They have also discovered that when rats are tickled, it fires emotional circuitry that causes them to laugh. The point is that I would want to include these new findings in the biological, evolutionary, and behavioral perspective orientations into the assessment phase as a way to give the client a broader understanding of all the different factors that are working together to pull them forward toward their goals. Then the analysis phase is about identifying the maladjustments a client is wrestling with. At the biological perspective level, the maladjustment would center around the following questions. Is everything working in order neurologically? Do you have the right levels of neurotransmitter activity? At the evolutionary perspective level, the maladjustment focus would be around the following questions. What do you think your emotion systems are telling you? Are you interpreting them correctly? At the behavioral developmental level, the maladjustment focus would be around the questions: what strategies did you learn to use to belong, to be loved and accepted? What stage of human development are you in, or role you are playing to fit in? Or what impulsive behaviors do you have? At the socio-cultural or psychodynamic level, the focus would be: what values, norms, and strategies for getting your needs met have you introjected from your family, community, and culture in order to achieve status? And finally, the cognitive or humanistic level would center on these questions: what self-talk, core beliefs, and lifestyle strategies are getting in the way of you achieving your higher purpose? This approach centers on the following key concepts. 1. That people need to understand the evolutionary purpose of their emotions and how their body responds to neurochemicals. 2. People need to understand how they interpret their emotional triggers and how they can control or hack their neurochemicals in positive ways to counteract false emotional triggers. 3. People need to understand the impulsive, conditioned behaviors. Dweck calls them beats, and Adler called them lifestyle strategies that stand in the way of actualizing themselves. 4. They also need to understand the ways they misapply the drive to measure up and be esteemed, and the resulting negative self-talk, irrational talk, and core belief that they hold on to that gets in their way. And finally, people need to understand what will give them purpose and meaning, represented by their fully actualized ideal self, if they had had unconditional positive regard and empathy. The goals of this integrated approach would be self-actualization at the highest level. Directly underneath that would be the things that lead up to self-actualization: self-volition, self-ownership, self-efficacy. Below that, behavior change, particularly trigger response change for automatic behaviors that are standing in the way of actualization. Likewise, automatic thinking or thinking changes that need to take place. In addition, self-awareness around any emotional wiring that is causing or creating confusion or being misinterpreted. And then along with that, rewriting of the memories and the emotional coding to those memories, perhaps as a result of trauma or other things that are preventing them from actualizing. The central technique would still be Adler's empathetic Socratic dialogue, putting the client in control of the insights and action. As mentioned, I would still follow the Adlerian four-phased approach: engagement, assessment, insight, and reorientation. I would supplement during the assessment phase with other tools and tests, like the positive psychology sailboat model, and also during the reorientation phase with a group accountability component. This would pull in something at each perspective level. The strengths of this approach would be that it was truly holistic, incorporating all perspectives. Several weaknesses, however, it would take more organization in terms of educating the client at each of these perspectives, and potentially it would complicate things too much. In terms of effectiveness, it gives each client multiple levers with which to understand and take control of their behavior and decision making. In doing so, it would help transfer ownership and sense of self-efficacy and self-volition clearly to the client.